Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 9 of the Apron Bumps Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, Brayster, Braden Mayhew, and alongside me to review yet another WWE pay-per-view event is my wonderful co-host, Mr. Gabe Nozid. How are we doing tonight, Gabe?
Doing very, very shaky, like AJ on that ladder, after that pay-per-view. But other than that, it's been a ride.
Yes, so WWE held Money in the Bank tonight. They claimed it was live. I seen a live tag through most of the show. I don't know how.
Oh, that wasn't. Yeah, you're
Did
right.
you notice that? I don't know if that's.
I noticed that, but I didn't give much thought into it until you just mentioned.
Well, it's
it.
just usually I don't remember there being a live thing over WrestleMania. Everybody knew it was taped, whereas they did a live thing tonight. So was it live, or I don't even know.
I don't know.
I don't know if it was live or not, but they claimed it was live. I didn't take notice of that because I had a live graphic
it over
up.
the Money in the Bank match?
No, it wasn't. But over the rest of the matches, it was. It might have been live for that portion of the show. So, but anyway, there was a pre-show match that happened. I never tune into the kickoff show. I only do to test my stream, and usually by the time I do that for the 15 to 20 minutes before the show starts, the kickoff match is usually over. Jeff Hardy beat Cesaro. I'm sure it was fine, but I didn't actually watch it. And Gabe, you actually watched the show late, didn't you? You mentioned to me in the chat.
I didn't know it was at 7. Yeah, I didn't know it was 7 p.m. I was just chilling. And then as soon as 8 o'clock hit, I'm like, okay, time to keep it rolling. And then I saw the promo for Braun and Bray, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm late, aren't I? But I was able to keep up somehow, and I just managed to be 30 minutes late. So that's when I stopped.
So I take it you did catch up on the matches that you had missed beforehand too, right?
Yeah.
As we're about to go into this here thing. Okay, perfect.
Excluding the the pre-show stuff.
Yeah, well, nobody cares about the pre-show so much
that
let's not forget that a few years ago at Survivor Series, SmackDown won a match on the pre-show, and they ended up getting swept on the pay-per-view by Raw, and they didn't even count the pre-show win because the commentators themselves told us that since it was on the pre-show, it doesn't matter. So that's how everybody feels about the kickoff show, Vince. And you can't call it a pre-show. It's got to be a kickoff. Got to have a wacky, different name for, before the show. You can't just call it a pre-show. It's got to be a kickoff. But anyway, speaking of what actually kicked off the main card was of course the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. The New Day, the team of Kofi Kingston and Big E, defending against former champs, The Miz and John Morrison, also defending against the Forgotten Sons, they've been called up for a couple months now, or a month and a half now. The team of Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler, with Jackson Riker at ringside for them. And the fourth team, of course, being Lucha House Party, the team of Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado. And so this was a little wacky match with a lot of high-flying stuff. Gran Metalik is so athletic and just such a great luchador style worker, and you wonder why he's being used in a job faction. Even Lince Dorado is pretty talented but Gran Metalik, whenever he works and is given a chance to do some really cool stuff, I find he always delivers, and it's he's just
always
stuck in this jobber faction, and
he even made it to the finals of the Cruiserweight Classic, so he's definitely something.
He is a very good luchador style worker, and he always hits the ball out of the park whenever he gets a opportunity to work. And he kind of pulled a Morrison on John Morrison in this match, so he hit this crazy. He kind of bounced on the top rope Spanish fly onto Morrison about a certain portion into the match, and I was just like, wow, this guy can just go here. It made me want to have a Gran Metalik versus Morrison singles match at some point in the future if they could build it up, make people care about it.
Turn that down.
Yeah, it would be pretty good, wouldn't it? But it's probably not going to happen. So I thought that the Luchas, Lince and Gran Metalik were definitely, they stood out the most out of this whole match. I think they really took their opportunity to be featured in a pay-per-view opener, and they wanted to make people remember them, even without a crowd. I think they did a very good job at standing out in this match. How'd you feel about their performance? I thought it was standout.
Oh, phenomenal. I knew Big E and who was it? It was Kofi, right?
Yeah.
That won it.
Yeah.
So I knew they were gonna win it back. So it just really mattered if you're gonna just stand out, especially in a four-way tag team match. I hate this format, by the way. Two people in the ring, but the other team members are there. It's weird.
Is it you just don't like that, like you can tag in just any other fucker and then you get in the ring? Like it can be very it can be very confusing. Yeah, it can be very
And it's
confusing.
just two people in the ring. I thought it was a fatal four-way tag match, but it's two people, and then you get to tag whoever you want. And then it's gonna be like a big like waterfall chaos spot later on.
And it always is. And literally, we got the point in the match where every team hit their double team finish, and it looked like they had it won, but another team that was out for a while would break it up. And this happened like consecutively over and over again. It's such a formulaic thing that they do. But again, I am so used to it that like it doesn't bother me. Like it's just like I'm just watching it. Like it's just like it's just a regular WWE multi-team match, and it has its structure. And I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just fine for what it was.
It just doesn't make. I mean, I know a lot of things in wrestling doesn't make sense, but I feel like a fatal four-way should be a fatal four-way, not just start the damn match.
Also, I need to make note. So Jackson Riker was doing a very harmless shenanigans at ringside. He really didn't get all that much involved, but the referee was so mad that he threw him out of this fatal four-way match. What if he didn't leave? I'm pretty sure in a four-way you can't get DQ'd, right? So it's like
no, it's a four-way. So yeah, that's another thing.
What if he refused to leave? Are you gonna are the Forgotten Sons just gonna get like forfeited from the match? I don't think so. There's no rules. So I thought that was ridiculous. So there's a point where Miz actually had me believing that him and Morrison were going to regain the tag titles. He had hit in a skull-crushing finale on Big E, and then he tagged in Jomo, and he hit his Starship Pain. And I thought, oh, wow, that was a short reign for the New Day. But then Big E, of course, kicked out. As said, after that is when Jackson Riker got kicked out for nothing, despite it being a fatal four-way. Everybody ended up doing a bunch of dives for a while. Everybody's flying all over the place. There was, like the spot with the I'm going to talk about it again, with the Spanish fly onto Morrison. They went off like the top rope to the floor. Now, granted, everybody was there to catch them. Everybody was there, like the whole, but like that's a crazy spot to be doing, especially when there's like no people to pop for it. You know what I mean? Like that is like that just seemed like just. I know there's a lot of this athleticism everywhere, but it just seemed like wow, that's a crazy move. Now, granted, they had the amount of people to protect them, but man, it looked wild, and I hope that this means bigger and better things for the Lucha House Party, for Gran Metalik in particular. But he's been around for so long now, and they've done so little with him that it makes me not particularly like. I just don't think they're going to do much with this performance that they had here, despite that.
Has he won the cruiserweight belt?
I don't think so.
Yeah, me either. So that's really preposterous. Like they're gonna give it to all these people, even Enzo Amore, but not the runner-up for the Cruiserweight Classic itself. So
I think the only person of Lucha House Party who's not even been on TV lately, if he's still part of their group, is the only former champ is Kalisto.
Yeah, Kalisto.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So anyway, unfortunately, it was also Gran Metalik that got caught in the ring with Big E, and Big E ends up hitting a big ending on Metalik, and that was it. And it was very good stuff, I thought. I thought it was like a good opener. It was wild. It was chaotic. It had its moments. As you said, it had that multi-man cliche stuff that we've seen a million times. But I thought all the teams worked really hard. Even the Forgotten Sons, because even though we forget about them, they are pretty good workers. And I don't know where Miz and Morrison go from here. Maybe you can tease Dissension and break them up. I mean, if they're not going to regain the belts, what's the reason of keeping them around? I mean, I guess they're a solid tag team, but you re-sign Morrison to be in a tag team with Miz for his second run? I wouldn't put past WWE to do that. But it was good for what it was, and I thought it was a solid way to open up the show.
Are we still doing our thumb system here?
Yes, and I would give this a thumbs up. So
thumbs up, yeah, same here.
A thumb up for sure. 1 thumb up. I don't think it was good enough for 2, but definitely 1. Do you have any post-match thoughts or like an analysis that you'd like to do before we move on to the rest of the show?
You've summed everything up for me in this match, so yeah.
Okay, perfect. So like yesterday at some time, I don't know when, but I just checked the date, and it was the date of yesterday. R-Truth versus MVP was added to the card literally last minute.
Oh, that was weird. Yeah. I was after this match, I'm like, wait, was this in our predictions?
No,
I don't remember,
they tacked it on. They didn't even do it on
week.
SmackDown. Well, these are technically 2 Raw guys, I think, but they tacked it on the card. They just added it via social media sometime on Saturday, and that was it. So, in our defense, this match didn't even exist at the time we did our predictions. In fact, it didn't even exist until 24 hours before the pay-per-view. But it was all done as a bait and switch. So, R-Truth, and, you know, I know he's wacky and all that, but, like, doing his What's Up theme song with, like, absolutely, like, nobody there. Maybe it's because, like, they're doing the character where he's been, like, just this crazy dude since he turned heel, that he believes there's fans there, but I'm just like, man, damn. It, like just comedy, goofball, I guess. Well, I mean, he's made it work for however many years now. I shouldn't be surprised, but like, it just, like, him doing the What's Up thing was just odd in front of, like, absolutely nobody. But, like, what else is he gonna do, I guess, right? So then MVP comes,
things, you know?
yeah. So then MVP comes out. They have a battle of words, and they go back and forth. Then MVP mentions, "Oh, I'm gonna take the night off," and Bobby Lashley ends up coming out. So it seems like MVP baited R-Truth into a match only to have him have to face Lashley instead. And there's not much to say here. Lashley came out. MVP went to the back. Truth tried to, you know, get the upper hand on Lashley, but Lashley snuffed it out. Lashley beat him down, kind of, you know, pummeled him around the ring, hit a quick spear, squashed him. It was whatever. Thumb in the middle, if not thumb down, because it was just filler. 100% filler. I mean, is it? Are we supposed to be impressed that Lashley can squash R-Truth? I don't know. I would expect that.
Was this needed? That's a question. Like,
was it needed? I know. Maybe they just felt Bobby needed to get a win on the pay-per-view. So why couldn't you have advertised him instead of MVP and announced that on Raw? I don't know.
Just give no thumbs for me.
Yeah, like, maybe I should even give it, like, none, like, just zero. It was just there.
Like, yeah.
It was a squash match that was basically an impromptu match on pay-per-view, and those have always been a pet peeve of mine. So not much to say there. Let's move on. Afterwards, we had the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Bayley defending against Tamina, and I'm going to go on record to say that this was probably the best match of Tamina's career. I've never seen Tamina in a match that I thought was this level or this good, and again, I'm giving 100% of the credit to Bayley. Believe me, it was all Bayley. 100%.
The entire ship, yeah.
She probably laid the match out. She did all the work. She worked the leg. She made you sympathetic for this giant woman because she kept attacking the leg like old school heel Bret Hart style, just beating it down, working it over. And I will give Tamina credit. She sold it well. I'll give her credit. She sold like as if her leg was being worked on over the whole match. She never forgot to sell that. That was good. There was a while where Bayley, just soaking up the non-crowd booing her, went outside and needed to take a break because she was in full control, and she borrowed a water bottle from either Cole or Corey Graves, and then she looks like she's about to drink it, but then she ends up just throwing it in Tamina's face. Like, wow, what a heel move that was. And but then this worked against Bayley because then Tamina kind of hulked up and got angry after having water thrown in her face, and she starts tossing Bayley around. And she starts making this big comeback, and it looks as if Tamina might be close to winning the title when Sasha kind of jumps in the ring. And Tamina, who has the match won, instead of just pinning Bayley or going for it, is so distracted with Sasha's presence that they have a staring contest for what felt like a minute. And then Tamina slowly chases Sasha around very forcefully. And then, of course, that ends up with Tamina getting back in the ring and getting rolled up by Bayley. So, stupid babyface syndrome hits Tamina here, and she loses because of that, where the babyface gets distracted with random shenanigans despite having the match won. And due to this stupid distraction that they put themselves through, they end up losing. But I thought it was good. I thought it was Tamina's best match she ever had. Bayley was not going to be losing the title here. I thought Bayley got the best match out of Tamina that she possibly could, especially given that there was no crowd there to make me invested in terms of, well, I mean, in front of a crowd, this probably wouldn't have had many people chirping much anyway. So I had to give credit to Bayley because she made me get into and care about a Tamina match. That was a thumb up for me. I'll give it a thumb up. I think it was the best match Tamina's ever had, and I think Bayley is starting to really get this heel character going. I know we said we've been kind of iffy on it for the last little while. I mean, clearly her babyface persona was much better and had a lot more money for it, but I think she's finally kind of hitting a stride the longer this title reign goes, and it's just going to mean that much more when somebody does finally beat her for it. So I thought this was largely a positive.
I always thought that okay, yeah, for sure Tamina's not gonna win, but what I wanted to feel in this match was that belief that she could win. Like, oh my goodness, like she could definitely win after that Samoan drop. But I mean, like, it's still Tamina in the end of the day, you know. So but excluding that, I mean, it was like you said, the best match she's ever had.
I thought so.
I think, I mean, I think it was. It makes sense that she didn't pin Bailey for me because like this is her one of a million opportunities of getting the women's belt, and then for Sasha to like interrupt it, she's keeping her eyes dead set because like if she interferes, it's a disqualification and she wins but doesn't win the belt. So I thought that was a really good storytelling device, but you know it's very overdone. But in this case, I really liked it since you know it's only the one time Tamina's gonna have a singles match for the belt. So
you're right about that. It could be the only time she has a pay-per-view match for the championship. So yeah. I mean that's a good case. I mean you could say that Sasha might have jumped in and caused the DQ, which is true. But like as soon as Tamina locked eyes with her, she stopped moving. They stared at each other for a while. Then she did the chase, and then got back in the ring, got rolled up. But it was good for what it was, and I found it to be largely a positive because this is a match that I'm pretty sure we both thought absolutely nothing of, and I got some value out of it, and I found that to be pretty good. I got more out of it than I certainly expected. Which is funny because I said that about the Fatal 5-Way from WrestleMania too. So
these SmackDown women are getting more interesting.
Yeah, it's because Bailey's just developing as a heel and is being a pretty compelling character. Exactly. I like all the trash talking she does. She takes advantage of that arena being empty.
She loves her feud with Michael Cole. Like on Twitter, she's like endorsing all the like I guess hate people are giving her towards Michael Cole, and she's just jumping on that train because her character right now just hates Michael Cole. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and the way she interacts with like the backstage interviewers, just saying, I don't got time for you, we got a job to do, and just it's kind of all coming together actually. I think slowly but surely. Yeah. So if it's going on a while longer, I'll just see where it progresses because it seems to get better by the month. So after that, we had the Universal Championship match. Braun Strowman defending against Bray Wyatt, wrestling as the TV show host, kid show host, not the Fiend. It's him in his like sweater and khaki pants or whatever color pants. I don't remember.
He was in skinny jeans.
Yeah. He's got that red sweater on. It's like the TLC thing last year with the Miz. So he shows up in his child host getup, and so Strowman does a lot of power early on, and Bray just laughs and just he has to comment Braun about his strength. Oh, you're so strong, Braun. You're a strong man, Braun. Like I guess that's like the only decent thing about these empty arenas is you can really hear the in-character work that they're allowed to, I guess, do because the mics pick it up a lot better because there's nobody making noise, so you can hear everything. And so Strowman dominates for a long time, and then all of a sudden Huskus, that pig, just appears behind the barricade like as if he's sitting there. And he's come on, Bray, and then I think like some of the other puppets ended up coming out a little later on.
Yeah, eventually all of them did.
But like at first it was just Huskus, and Braun kind of just ignores it, and they battle in the ring. But Huskus' support lets Bray kind of, I guess, Bray up to a degree, because then he overpowers Strowman and ends up hitting Sister Abigail. But Braun, of course, kicks out of this move, and so Bray ends up just deciding to go for it again. So he goes to hit another Sister Abigail, but Braun does the big strong man counter into a choke slam. They kind of trade, like they basically traded offense a little bit back and forth. Bray got a little bit more stuff in than I thought he would, even though Strowman was pretty much in control of the match for the most part. And then all of a sudden, it cuts to Braun, who's outside the ring, and he put that black sheep mask on that he used to wear when he was originally part of the Wyatt family many years ago. It was under the ring, I guess. And so Bray just like snaps and goes into full, I'm super elated, couldn't be more happy to see this. He was saying, like, I understand what this means. I promise this time, Braun, everything will be perfect. Everything will be perfect this time as far as, like, their alliance will be better now that they're back as a duo. And I was figuring this monster among men is clearly putting that mask on to sucker this guy in. That was like my first thought. But before that could be really shown, all the Firefly Funhouse puppets are now at ringside, like behind the barricade, and they're all chanting and saying, "Welcome home, Braun! Welcome home, Braun!" And it's cutting between them. And then Braun takes off the mask. He and Bray stare each other down, because this is right after they gave each other a hug. And then Braun just kind of, out of nowhere, hoists Bray up, hits him with the big power slam, and pins him. So Braun made Bray believe that he was rejoining his crew, and then used it to his advantage to catch him off guard and hit his finish. So, I mean, he beat Bray, the child host, but he has not beaten The Fiend. So I imagine Bray will bring out The Fiend to continue going after Braun. I think that's where this is coming forward.
Yeah, even after the match, like, Bray being seen in the ring, it kept cutting to The Fiend on and off. So it's definitely going to continue with The Fiend now.
Yeah, so Bray had his shot, but he couldn't get it done, so now he has to rely on The Fiend to do the dirty work. So that's actually a pretty good story, to be honest. So that's a good way to continue things. And I thought the match was pretty good. Like, it's not a classic or anything like that, but, like, compared to Braun just spamming a bunch of moves on Goldberg, these guys kind of worked a bit. They told a bit of a story. It had a bit of time. It wasn't just an outright squash of Bray Wyatt. Like, there was a story to the match. The story was Bray felt he needed to win the title from Braun, but at the same time of trying to win the title back, he tried to recruit him to be at his side again. And then Braun used that affection that Bray has for him to his advantage and used it to beat him in the end. So I thought that was kind of clever, to be honest. But I would have just had him pick him up with the sheep mask on still. I wouldn't even tease, like, the whole Braun takes it off and they have a stare down that leads to the power slam. I would have just had him right after the hug with the sheep mask on, hoist him up and power slam him, because that would have been a little more sudden, and I thought it would have been a little more effective. But I was fine with what it was, and I'll give it a thumbs up. One thumb up, of course.
Yeah. Just a single thumb for me as well.
Do you have any other thoughts you might want to have concluding this match, or are we good to move on?
I just, as a small nitpick, it's just weird that Braun, out of all people, is in his name, Braun, was able to, like, manipulate, Bray Wyatt, who is obviously, like, the master manipulator of all these, like, feuds he's been in. And it just makes me think of Bray a little weak in this situation. Like, how can Braun just from the outside put a black mask on and make you think, like, yeah, I'll join you again, when there's, when the other two members of the Wyatt family are, like, doing their own thing now outside of the E. So it's just weird, like, seeing Braun have some brain for once against, Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
so.
I think they just looked at it as a necessary evil, right? They wanted to keep the belt on Braun. They knew that Bray wasn't going to be the Fiend, but they didn't want it. It's funny, he still looks stupid in defeat, but they did it with the intent of, like, slightly protecting him to a degree. That he defeated himself, but he still kind of looked weak because of it and stupid.
Yeah,
for falling for it.
They could have booked, Bray trying to keep manipulating a Braun, I guess, and then in the end, fight it off. But Braun actually used his brain in manipulating Bray, so I don't know about that decision. So I mean, I still knew that Braun was gonna win. So
well, it's
still a good overall.
Yeah, the only reason I'm not so torn on it is because Bray is technically the heel, so the heel looking stupid.
Yeah, he is.
The heel looking stupid does not frustrate me nearly as much as the babyface looking stupid.
Of course.
So, like, I was fine with that. But, like, after all these months of him winning and getting in people's heads, to lose like that kind of tarnished his character to a degree. But their defense is, well, he wasn't the Fiend tonight, and which is accurate. But he beat The Miz at TLC without being the Fiend too, so I don't know. It's split hairs here. You can defend it or be against it either way. But clearly, no matter who won this match, this is a program that's going on for at least another pay-per-view or two. I'm
still invested in this storyline.
Oh yeah, because it's clearly not over. It's clearly there's a lot more to be done with it. So we'll see where it goes. Now we go to my personal favorite part of this pay-per-view, the WWE Championship match between Drew McIntyre defending against Seth Rollins. Rest in peace, burn it down. Seth's got this new Messiah type theme song and this new entrance, and I was just like, Well, there goes Burn
I
It
mean,
Down.
even as the Messiah, I still thought his theme kind of suited his character. But I guess they really want to go gung ho with the whole Messiah
Give him a
gimmick.
toga. Give him a Jesus toga, and I'll, let him wear the thing he wore at WrestleMania all the time. Then I'll believe it a little more. That get up would have worked a lot better than the leather jacket tonight.
I
That
mean,
thing,
a good example is Shawn Michaels. You know, I remember he had an entrance against Undertaker at one of the
yeah,
Manias.
25.
Yeah, and then he had a whole like heaven, descent, and then there was a whole angelic choir playing, and then it cuts to Sexy Boy because that's still Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, I was shocked to hear this gospel style theme
Yeah,
song for Seth, but that's the least of my worries. I mean, maybe they'll use it for a few weeks and go back. Maybe they'll keep having him use it. I don't know. To me, I've been so used to Burn It Down that it was like this just feels weird. It's just this is weird.
maybe they'll like mix it both one day, hopefully,
Yeah, well,
because
their mixes usually suck when they try and do like two songs in one.
lately they
Oh,
have
they've
because
been bad.
CFOs is gone now, so.
Like that original like Asuka Kairi Sane Pirate
Oh
and
yeah,
oh
that
my
was right
god.
after CFOs left WWE.
You remember
Like
how
they
bad
had
that
no one.
mashup was? The original theme song for the Kabuki Warriors? That was god awful. It was horrible. And they've done a couple other mashups
Yeah,
that haven't been good either. So, but we'll see. I mean, as I said, if they don't feel it's sticking with him, they'll just throw Burn It Down back to him, and he'll use that theme again. We'll see. But so they both come out, and I was really looking forward to this because, of course, these two are both fantastic workers. And so in the beginning, Seth is all about wearing Drew down by out grappling him and putting him in submissions over and over again. There was a time where Seth had him in a cross-face chicken wing, then a regular cross-face, and he was just doing a bunch of face and arm locks and transitioning through them, and it was like it was kind of cool because he's wearing down this bigger man by using submissions, which I thought was kind of a clever thing. Then when Drew kind of got some space on the outside, Seth's like, well, I'm going to be more athletic than you, and he would keep catching him with dives over and over again. At some point, he ended up working on McIntyre's leg as well by doing a bunch of leg submissions. Like he pulled out a half crab, and I think there was a point where he put in a heel hook as well, and he did a few leg submissions. And so McIntyre has to begin selling the leg now. And on the outside, Seth again has decided that he wants to prove that he is far more athletic than Drew and the champion we all need. And he then did a bunch of beautiful running knee strikes to the head. McIntyre sold them like death. It seemed like he pretended he had a concussion or something. He was laying on the ground. He was trying to catch his breath. So then afterwards, they get back in the ring, and Drew's kind of trying to make a comeback, and he tries to hit a Claymore. But Seth gets out of the way, and then Drew is able to counter that into his Future Shock DDT, which was his old finish when he was like the chosen one. It's like his transitional move. Like it never finishes matches for him, but it's like a key spot because usually it sets up for like the kip up and then the Claymore, but this he just hit out of nowhere as like a desperation counter. And then after this, Seth was able to catch Drew with a super kick. And he came off with that beautiful frog splash. We all know how wonderful Seth's frog splash is, but it only resulted in a 1 count. Drew and his power kickouts before 2 have been kind of a thing I've noticed lately. Like in certain matches he's had with Andrade on TV, and I think he might even kicked out of something that Brock did to him at WrestleMania and kicked out at 1. I've noticed these powerful kickouts. Everybody is so conditioned to 2.9 kickouts that seeing a babyface a kick out at 1 over a heel's offense is shocking kind of because you're not used to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you kind of feel that way after Seth hit this beautiful super kick, hit this massive frog splash, which is usually a big 2 count? Drew just powered out at 1. I was like, damn.
Well, because in wrestling we're just so conditioned.
I know.
To, 2.
That's why I liked it.
2 or 3. So
that's why I liked it.
Rare.
Yeah, it's very rare, and I thought it worked effectively on me. I did kind of pop for that a bit. I won't lie. And so this obviously pissed Seth off, and for some reason he decided to bring a chair to the ring, but then I guess the Messiah got a bit of self-reflection as he went there. Went, well, if I use this thing, I'm going to get DQ'd. So he put it away. So I don't know why. Maybe it was just in his anger. He was just in a blind rage, so he picked up a chair and thought better of it. So it continued on, and McIntyre ended up hitting another Future Shock DDT. Seth kicks out. Seth eventually did counter a Claymore attempt, and he hit a super kick, and he hit the stomp. They still don't call it curb stomp, but he hit the stomp, and McIntyre again kicked out. Oh no, he kicked out at like 2.1.
Yeah.
It was like the referee had just hit 2 and he went up. So it was almost like 1, but the ref did actually hit the mat for 2. Also, a spot that I need to mention, they battled on top of the ropes, and they were both struggling for advantage, and Seth ends up being pushed off the top rope. And then, quick like a cat, he runs up, hits the Falcon Arrow Superplex combination, which is one of my favorite transition spots that he uses in matches. And there was a time where he used it all the time, and it was getting completely overused because he was using it on Raw every week and on pay-per-view. This is a move he has not hit in a very long time. And Drew is a very, very large man.
Big boy.
And it looked very impressive, and it was as fluid as he's ever hitting it. So Seth, like Tyler Bate, I guess we can say, is a big, strong boy too, right? So, like,
of course.
Yeah. But then McIntyre also had his moments of power where he does that big, giant flinging suplex. He did one to Seth on the announce table. He threw him over belly to belly. Seth hit the announce table hard. He threw him from the top rope like that. Seth just beeled and sold it like death. He caught him a couple times with it. It's like he'll just do the snap belly-to-belly suplex and just toss the guy. He just threw him, launched him a few times. And then the finish came, and the finish was brilliant. So McIntyre ends up hitting that Glasgow Kiss headbutt. And then Seth kind of stumbles back, but then somehow is able to catch him with a super kick right afterward. And so Drew kind of gets bounced into the ropes off the super kick, but he uses his own momentum to propel into a Claymore, and he Claymored Seth in the head and pinned him to retain the title. And I am of this opinion. I think this is the best WWE match held without a crowd so far, as far as an in-ring match goes. If this was in front of people, this would be seen as a legitimate match of the year contender. Now it's just very good to great. It'll just be like a standard great match with no people. But if like there was an audience to react to the chops that McIntyre threw throughout, the kicks that Seth was doing, all the spots that were building up, the whole match layout was perfect. Like Drew, I mean, but you wouldn't have heard the chops as good, because every time Drew just chopped Seth, he sold it like death and screamed in agony. So you're missing that element. But I do think that if people were in attendance to watch this, the reaction to this match would have been amazing. And it's unfortunate that this was a match that had to take place in front of nobody. If it was in front of people, I think it'd be seen as like a legitimate match of the year contender for WWE.
I can believe that, yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm of the opinion that this is by far the best actual wrestling match held in front of nobody so far. Definitely the best at least the best of the men. It's definitely comparable to, I think, to Charlotte and Rhea from
I was
WrestleMania.
about to say, that's still hard to decide for me. Like when you said best in ring, quarantine match, I'm like, okay, it's either this or Charlotte Rhea Ripley.
That's the only one that's comparable. That's the only other one that's comparable to this.
So I don't know if it's better than that, because they're both really good in their own merit. So it's
they're good in their own merits because it's a different gender, right? Like when it comes to women's matches, then yeah, Charlotte and like Rhea's definitely the best. And then when you look at the men matches, I think this is the best match that is between two men that's happened since they've been forced to go to the Performance Center. So really, if you want to, if you were to get Brayster and Gabe's recommendation for two matches that we think are great, despite the fact that there are people, watch this WWE Championship match between Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, or go back to WrestleMania 36 Night 2 and watch the opener between Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair for the NXT Women's title. Do you have any post-match thoughts you'd like to get out of your own there, Gabe?
I'm just wondering what's after this match, because this is still a hell of a match. So what's going to be next for Drew and Seth?
Yeah, and I mean, they kind of blew it off.
Keep it going, right?
I think so, but they kind of blew it off. They had a handshake. Drew kind of said, "You gave me a hell of a match, man. I respect that. You're a hell of a challenger."
Who could be like another challenger for Drew then? Is it gonna go to Andrade or?
Maybe.
I can't think of anyone else. Yeah.
Maybe they'll give Andrade a shot. I mean, he's been kind of used a lot on television lately, so maybe they go to him. Maybe Seth does something dastardly, and but I hate that though, because the babyface wins, So the heel's already done. So then the heel does something to antagonize the babyface to get another match, even though he's lost. So it's like, where's the investment? We've already seen the guy lose, So I don't know how they're going to keep it going if they do. I think they might just go to another heel. Maybe Andrade is next. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, who knows? I'll give this like two and a thumbs. Yeah.
I give it a full 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up for this, 100%. Because it's at least the best men's match since they've moved to an empty performance center in front of nobody. So there we go. And off of that high, we have another high of sorts. That being the simultaneous men and women's Money in the Bank ladder match that took place at WWE's Titan Towers, their corporate headquarters. And it was another cinematic match to a degree, but like it's still, again, the Firefly Funhouse was like an art house indie movie of sorts, and then Undertaker and AJ was kind of more like an action movie. So I guess you could say this is more like another action movie type prolonged thing, but it still kind of felt like a match. I mean, they brawled, and it was like just a match that took place inside Titan Tower. But due to the fact that it was slightly cinematic, there was cameos and a lot of goofy stuff. At the beginning, they kind of have the men enter in the gym, and then they had the women enter like right in front of like the first floor elevators. So they have all of them come out. So all the women come out, all the men come out, and they're all jaw-jacking and all that. Then Asuka's supposed to show up next. She's the sixth and final woman to enter into the lobby. But we just hear her music, and they're looking around for her, and they don't know where she is. So then all the men enter, and they're jaw-jacking, and they're arguing, and I think they end up coming to blows. And then we cut back to the women, who are still looking around for Asuka, and her music's still playing. And then we see Asuka on the banister above the elevators, screaming down in Japanese at all the women in the lobby, and they obviously now their attention is on her, and she jumps and dives off the banister onto all of them, gets up, shouts at them in Japanese, starts celebrating, and then she runs for the elevator like the smartest person in the match, because why wouldn't you want to get up on the roof right away when you've taken out all of your opponents? So I thought that was pretty good. So all the men start fighting. I noticed that Corbin and Bryan were brawling a lot at the beginning. AJ and Otis were fighting each other. And then Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black, oddly enough, were the other two that were scrapping in the gym. So Corbin, during his brawl with Daniel Bryan, he throws something and he breaks a mirror in the gym.
That was weird. Like, he was really entranced in that for like a whole 10 seconds.
Well, the reason he was
looking at that mirror.
It's because there's the old superstition that if you break a mirror, it's like 7 years of bad luck or something like that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But, he was just so engulfed in damn, I really just broke a mirror.
I think it was because I think King Corbin might be superstitious. I think he was just shocked that he might have had 7 years of bad luck.
I guess that makes sense later on, right?
Oh, we'll bring it up. We'll bring up what happened later on for sure.
Yeah.
So then Otis, ends up trapping AJ under this.
Otis in this match.
There was a lot of oh yeahs that were yelled during this match. I love when he just looks at something and he'll scream whatever he's looking at. Food! Yeah! It's just like, what a guy. And so he puts this giant press bar on AJ, and AJ is very
weights, AJ.
Yeah, this is too much weight for AJ Styles. So AJ is trapped helplessly under this giant press bar, and so he asks, of all people, Rey Mysterio to help him. Like Rey's gonna help you get out so you can attack him from behind or something. But AJ Styles is he must hold grudges, because later on, AJ did happen to get that weight off of him somehow. We don't know how. But then he's looking around for Rey Mysterio. He's not looking around for Otis, the guy who trapped him to begin with. No, it's that fucking Rey Mysterio who didn't help me get this bar off. I need to get him for not helping me. So he's looking around for Rey because Rey Mysterio didn't help free him from the fucking press bar. So that was the beginning. They end up all leaving the gym, and blah blah goes on. This was wacky. I'm trying to keep up with what happened. Somehow the women all go up, and they end up fighting in a kind of like a boardroom of sorts, and there's a fake Money in the Bank briefcase hanging in it, but we don't see that.
Was it there?
Yeah, I think it was made there just to make like Dana look silly I think it was
Yeah,
just
but
like
I thought about it like, okay, why would an office building have like
like.
a fake Money in the Bank
Well,
briefcase
to be
above
fair,
like
the
that?
match was sanctioned there, so maybe they thought putting a red herring up would be a funny distraction for one of the competitors. Maybe I could suspend my disbelief in that.
It just makes Dana look super stupid.
It does.
It's on the roof. Like everyone knows, it's on the roof.
It's been advertised the whole time. So, yeah, clearly she was made to look like the dumb blonde. So, basically what happened was Nia, Shayna, and Carmella all end up in this boardroom, and Nia tosses Shayna. Carmella hits Nia from behind with a chair. Dana Brooke ends up taking out Carmella, and she takes down the fake briefcase in the conference room. And then Stephanie, of course, has to make a cameo telling Dana how stupid she is without actually saying the word stupid, but it's basically what was being implied here. Also, at some point, I think, who was it? Was it Rey Mysterio goes to the bathroom, and Bruce Pritchard, his brother
Bruce
Love,
Pritchard.
is there.
Yeah.
He's there.
I love you.
There was a point where the guys are brawling, and Doink's face just pops out of nowhere and goes back.
No, that's not Doink.
That wasn't
That's,
Doink?
That's Frank. That's Noelle Foley's boyfriend, who is one of the writers in WWE.
It looked like a Doink face he had on, though. It looked like Doink face paint.
No, that's Frank the Clown. That's his gimmick that he made up when he was a wrestler, and then he met.
That's an
Mick Foley's
obscure
daughter.
cameo.
I know, like because in WWE he's never been mentioned at all.
I know.
And
I just thought it was. I was like, who's this writer dressed up as Doink? That was my first thought.
That's Frank.
Wow.
I went to his Twitter, and he said #Money in the Bank. Clown, clown, clown. So,
Wow,
like, oh,
how about that? I thought it was a random writer with Doink's face paint on.
You're right about random writer, but
Yeah.
Frank Clown, random writer.
So, and then, if you can believe it, they all end up running through. The women end up running somewhere else, and there's this janitor there, and the men and women run by, and Dana Brooke happens to be the only one who falls on her ass right after pulling down a fake.
She was the dumb blonde.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, she pulls down a fake briefcase, she falls on her ass, and oh my god. At least she got a pay-per-view spot. And then Paul Heyman's here with like a giant table of food. It's just like a ton of foods all over the place. So he's about to eat like one piece of bread. And there's all this other great food around him, but he's going to eat one piece of bread. And then both the women and the men just end up in front of his table, and they all start arguing for whatever reason. It's like, aren't you all just competing for your own briefcase? Why are you arguing with each other? And then, oh yeah, food fight is yelled. So Otis yells food fight, and of course
he goes straight for him.
Of course, a food fight happens. Paul gets peppered with a bunch of food. It's wacky. Everybody's getting terribly messy. I mean, I wonder if anybody felt sticky after everything that was being thrown at them. And then Shayna just grabs Rey Mysterio and puts him in the Karafuda clutch in the mass of the chaos. And I think this was, believe it or not, that was like Shayna's highlight from this thing.
Sadly.
Was choking. She was like MIA for most of this matchup. She like ran, she chased down Asuka a few times, she brawled with a couple people in the stairs, but I think her key highlight was choking out Rey Mysterio in front of the food table. And then Otis and Nia, as Shayna lets go of Rey, basically do an accidental double splash to Rey, and he's taken out, and it's wacky. And they stare each other down and walk away. So, and then AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan are now doing a brawl, and of course, where do they happen to brawl into? But none other than Mr. McMahon's office. The chairman's pissed, tells them both to get out, and they cautiously put back all the chairs that they had ruined. They sorted his papers on the table. They made sure that everything they touched was fine, and they kind of tiptoed their way out of there with Vince looking very angry. And then AJ had to, of course, mock Daniel for being basically like a wimp for cowering to Mr. McMahon. He's like, well, me? What about you? And then they argue, and then they start fighting again. But beforehand, during the time, I should mention it now, but AJ, as he was looking for Rey Mysterio to try and beat him up for not helping him with the press bar, he was walking by a bunch of like WWE WrestleMania entrance pictures. And he walks by Roman Reigns. He walks by.
That was interesting. They really left that Roman Reigns shot there for a while.
They did.
So...
They did. And so he walks by Reigns, which is the one I picked up. He walked by a couple others. I don't really remember who they were. But then the last one he looks at is, of course, the entrance of The Undertaker. And AJ immediately has PTSD of the Boneyard match. And he remembers getting buried, and he's like, oh no, oh no. And, of course, he opens the door that's right beside the Undertaker picture, and, of course, Taker's theme's going, and there's caskets, and AJ's, like, frozen solid. He's having terrible Boneyard flashbacks, and then Aleister Black locks him in that room.
I'm just wondering, like, what was that room, like, what's the purpose of that room in a corporate head building, you know, like, okay, we'll have a...
Well, they have a gym there, too. I still don't see the need of a gym in a corporate building, right? So...
It's just weird, like, there's a whole room with a casket and everything. I mean, I guess it makes sense because Undertaker, but still, it's a whole room dedicated to, like, just creepy, like, morgue stuff.
So,
but
I guess AJ's new job is to have 5-star performances in cinematic movies. Is that just, like, his new role now? Like, that's...
He's killing it every time.
He is. I'll give him that much. He is killing it every time.
I don't like that how he was, I guess, quote-unquote, locked in by Aleister Black because... Like, I'm pretty sure that can be unlocked from the inside, right? If you can unlock it from the outside.
And not to mention, how did he get out if he was locked in? Did he have superhuman strength and did he just break down the door? We don't know how he got out. He just showed up and brawled with people later. So, yeah, he escaped 2 terrible things that should have cost him... Well, he didn't win in the end, we'll get to that. But he was able to get that press bar off somehow. He was trapped the last time we seen him. And somehow he got out of the casket room where he was locked in. We don't know how. He just somehow was able to escape each time. So, eventually, people brawl some more. And King Corbin somehow gets the upper hand on everybody that tries to take him out. He beats the shit out of everybody, and then he just yells, I'm going to the roof! The only one with a brain, I guess, is King Corbin. Nobody else tried to go to the elevator, except for literally Asuka and the women. I mean, maybe the men actually had one sequence where they went up in the elevator shortly after the food fight. I apologize. But the women were... Asuka was the smartest, because she spent most of the time in the elevator. And King Corbin obviously did too, even though we didn't see his elevator trip. But as we get near the end... Asuka and Nia Jax brawl, and they're the first 2 women to make... They're the first 2 people in general to make it to the roof. And then Lacey Evans ends up joining the fray. Shayna Baszler, Carmella, and Dana Brooke nowhere to be seen when it got to the roof. They were just forgotten. I guess they just gave up, or decided to leave, or maybe they got caught in a different floor. They had no presence at all in the final stages of the women's side. They were taken out, I guess, at the points we've seen them, whenever the brawls ended. I mean, I guess for, like, Carmella, she did get power-bombed through a food table by Nia Jax. I don't really remember particularly what happened to Dana Brooke. And Shayna, I swear, was just... What's that?
Didn't Dana slip?
She did, but she did appear at the... I'm pretty sure she appeared at the food table after... Or maybe the slip was after the food table. I don't know.
I don't remember. They're all like...
Yeah, Shayna got powerbombed by Nia into a wall, and I believe that was the last we seen of her. Before the 3 women made it to the rooftop. And that was the last we seen of Shayna Baszler on this pay-per-view. So, Asuka ends up... They fight on the ladder. They take a few bumps off of it. And then, eventually, Asuka manages to climb up. And then Corbin shows up. Corbin shows up, and he climbs up the ladder, and her and Asuka have a scuffle, but you're not even going for the same briefcase. Those gendered briefcases, you just gotta open up and get them.
The smart thing to do is go for your own damn briefcase. But he goes to attack Asuka for some reason.
Yeah, so Asuka, of course, fucking kicks him in the head, and he crashes down. And after this, of course, Asuka grabs the briefcase, and she is this year's Miss Money in the Bank, and I was very pleasant. Yeah, I was pleasantly pleased with that result for sure. As we said in the predictions video before this, if Shayna Baszler doesn't win, then I imagine that they're going to be giving it to Asuka. We did mention that we went with Shayna in the end, but me and Gabe both said that Asuka was our second choice. So again, we weren't fully 100% right, but I actually preferred this result to Shayna anyway.
They're really making Shayna look like a dweeb.
Yeah, she's. I don't want to say she's done, but it's bad.
It's starting to look like it.
It's. I would be surprised. I don't think she's gonna win the belt. I think she's gonna.
The most dominant she's looked was that chamber match, and that's it. And
that's it. That's literally it.
I don't know what happened. Like, I guess she wasn't impressive enough.
She got fluke pinned by Becky. They never had a second match. She has a shot to get at Becky again, and they give it to Asuka. So bad news for Shayna Baszler's career going forward. So then all the men end up on top of corporate headquarters in the ring where there's the ladders set up and the briefcase is
And then
hanging.
Asuka disappeared from that ladder.
Yeah, she just she won and then just deleted.
All
out.
the women,
just vanished. They just left immediately. Yeah. Like there was no frame. It's just all of a sudden they were all gone. Like next shot, they were all nowhere to be seen. So it was Corbin and I guess I think AJ made it up there and started fighting with Corbin. Then Otis shows up and starts brawling with them. And then eventually Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black show up. But then Corbin commits double murder by throwing Rey Mysterio off of corporate headquarters. And then very shortly after that, he tosses Aleister Black off the building.
It was really nonchalant. Like
he just tossed them. He just tossed both of them. I'm pretty sure that's the roof of a building. They must have fallen far. Jeez, those guys must be dead. Like...
No, it's just, they're gone after that. And no one really cared or questioned it.
Yeah, and then, so, AJ and Corbin end up... Daniel Bryan gets in there for a bit, but he's quickly taken out. And then it's Corbin and AJ battling at the top of the ladder for the briefcase, and they both end up getting it in hand. But Corbin is attacked by Elias from behind. Elias shows up out of nowhere and hits him with his guitar. And due to this, it causes both men to fumble the briefcase, and Otis catches it on the way down. And it's like that fluke thing where the thing falls off the top of the ladder because the two guys who pulled it down fumble it, so neither one of them technically had sole possession of it. And it dropped to the arms of the winner. And there was a lot of rumors going around, at least on YouTube that I'd seen, where people said that Otis was being considered to win, and he was becoming... don't be shocked if it happens, or Vince is considering giving it to Otis, but I completely didn't believe it at all. I was like, I don't know. That doesn't seem very likely to me, but it happened. Otis won. How about that? He's Mr. Money in the Bank for 2020. I did not call that. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I didn't see it either, but I'm interested in where it's gonna go, I guess, because it's... Yeah, I mean...
So I think Tucker's going to be left in the dust here. I think Otis is getting the rocket strapped to him.
I heard news that that Otis is confirmed a single star now. Like, he's not a tag team.
Poor Tucker. He's done. So
it's probably just going to be a jobber.
Yeah. So he lost the partner who brought him to the dance, because without Otis, he's nothing. I mean, I don't mean to slag the guy or anything like that, but Otis has the charisma and the personality, and he's just such a likable dude. And then Tucker was just there, like clearly Heavy Machinery was... I don't want to say it was all Otis, but it pretty well was all Otis. Like, wouldn't you say, for the most part?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, all of what's it called? All of Heavy Machinery, like even in NXT, I always looked forward to Otis and just his charisma.
Yeah,
and his him winning the briefcase kind of gave me a little bit of flashbacks to AJ winning that Ultimate X. And if you know, like, he did a phenomenal like forearm jump from the top rope to the very tip top of like these two wrestlers like holding on to the belt, and then they dropped in and like AJ got the belt when they dropped it or something.
Yeah, and speaking of a phenomenal forearm, Otis actually took one right near the end of the match. AJ...
They made that look really good.
Yeah. Did you?
Like, they zoomed out with a helicopter pan.
They did do that, didn't they? The helicopter was behind. That was a perfect shot. What a beautiful forearm that was. AJ's just the best, and I thought they were going to give it to him because he's the main event star and he's the heel, but they're giving it to Vince's brand new pet project. Apparently, Vince loves Otis. Thinks the Mandy storyline is fantastic and is 100% behind Otis's push going forward. And when you have Vince's seal of approval, believe you me, that goes a long way.
Yeah, and it's not just Vince, everyone. If Vince sold on you and everyone else is sold on you, then that's just money in the making for not just Otis, but for the
how about the
itself.
Otis Mandy Royal Rumble spot that got like how many thousand people to cheer?
Oh, that was my favorite. That was my favorite spot. I thought she was gone, and then there's just like Otis just licking his lips everywhere.
So he was very much like getting the people behind him before quarantine happened, and now he's just being seen as a star to invest in and push even through the midst of this quarantine. So I liked the winners. I like them in particular because Asuka deserves a run with a women's championship. I hope that this leads to her cashing in, beating whoever, because, I mean, she could go for either Becky or Bayley. It doesn't really matter. And I think this win's going to turn her babyface. to an extent, or she's going to be a tweener, to where she can face baby faces or heels, but when the crowds come back, she's going to be cheered no matter what.
To me, Asuka's always been a tweener. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, there's situations where she's been a heel or whatever, but she's just always been like on fire. No
But
matter
you
where
can't
she
doubt
went.
that like when crowds come back, they're going to be going crazy for her though.
Always. I mean, for me, crowd's always hot for Asuka.
Always,
so.
always, and her charisma has. It's funny. Her personality has been on display so much in a way that they never really used her before until this, like, they were forced to in this quarantine. And it's like, since this quarantine, she's just been on fire as a character. I've never been more fascinated in her getting a push than this time. And it's funny because, like, a lot of people are tuning out in droves. And here I think Asuka's having a hell of a run, and I think they're finally seeing that value in her as not only being probably the best female wrestler they have on the whole roster, but being a compelling and dynamic character and force. I'm all for her winning Money in the Bank, and I really hope it leads to a championship win for her because she deserves it.
Yeah, it looks like wow, I hope she goes for Becky. That'd be a really great like program just to drop the belt to her.
And it's been like an ongoing feud. They've had multiple times where they've traded the belt back and forth, and they have chemistry. Every time Becky and Asuka have matches, they're always very good to great, and I don't get sick of watching them work.
Yeah, Becky has even said like Asuka is one of her favorite dance partners in the ring. So
they have great chemistry.
Losing the belt to Becky is losing the belt from Becky to Asuka is just it's gonna be a monumental moment one day.
Yep, so poor Shayna, but, them's the breaks sometimes in this business. And then when it comes to Otis, I'm not so sure. Like, I mean, I think it should come to the point where he can cash in and win a big championship. And so you can have another successful new star who wins the briefcase, make it successful. I mean, we just had Drew McIntyre win the Rumble as a never-before world champion in WWE and then go on to win the world championship after winning the Royal Rumble. I think to keep Money in the Bank's legitimacy, Otis should win a world title of his choosing, but as I said, he needs some pushing and grooming as a full-on single star, and they have a whole year. That's the gimmick of the briefcase. You have a year to build the dude up, and in that year, you can use the briefcase where you can hide snacks in it or whatever, make him more compelling and funny, and just, I don't know, I get Hacksaw Jim Duggan vibes from Otis, except now they're actually...
I can see it.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of, is that a fair comparison? Like, I kind of get that, except...
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, except they're actually going to, like, push him to, like, it seems like they're going to at least have him challenge for a top championship. I hope he is successful with it, though, because I like seeing new faces win the briefcase and get successful championship reigns out of it. I hate when people fail, because then it's like it kills the gimmick of the briefcase,
Yeah, and I'm just wondering who he would go for or what belt he would
because really he can go for either or. It's not brand oriented. That's a universal briefcase, right? So you can go for either. But I don't see, both champions are baby faces right now, so he's obviously not challenging for that belt anytime soon.
Yeah, not right now.
I think they're just going to use the briefcase as a part of his personality and help use it to build him. You could have him defend it in feuds. Maybe he could defend it against Dolph Ziggler throughout the summer. That could be something that they do with it. Dolph tries to take it from him and still be that cocky, athletic douche who's trying to bully the dude. And there's many ways they can go with it. I think he's going to hold it long term, and they have a whole year to build with him. And I'm excited to see where it goes, because I just can't believe the amount of success Otis has had, and I am so happy for him, because he was one of those random, like, 12 NXT call-ups where they kind of did nothing with them for a while, but then they did, and now all of a sudden he's being used, and he was in the hottest storyline going into WrestleMania, and he's, well, hottest of the undercard. I should point that out. I should be more specific, but hottest of the undercard. And now he's got a guaranteed world championship shot in a briefcase that he can hold for a year. So I'm excited to see where his career goes from here, and hopefully it's nothing but up, but he's got Vince on his side, and that's, believe me, that's half the battle.
Who do you think he would win it from if he were to win the world title?
I don't know. I think it would have to be a heel of some sort for sure, because you don't want Otis to be turning heel. He doesn't, it's not going to work.
He's not going to turn heel.
He's a career babyface for sure.
Anytime soon, or even years from now.
Yeah, he's a career babyface, and you got to have a heel do it, so maybe...
I think one person that comes to mind is AJ Styles, to me. Like, it just makes, because especially coming from this match, they could bring back some, like, storyline stuff.
So do you see Otis maybe going to Raw and AJ winning the belt from Drew down the line? Is that maybe what you're going for there?
Either he goes to Raw or AJ goes back to SmackDown. Some brand stuff has to cross paths, because I mean, that's the only thing I could really imagine. Just him winning it from AJ Styles would be a magnitude of a moment.
And it would be a great
Especially,
match too. It'd be a great
yeah,
match.
that too. I could see a great ass match with those two as well. So
So yes, I'm going to give the cinematic, wacky Looney Tunes Money in the Bank one thumb up. People are very divided on this.
I'm giving it two.
You're gonna give it two? Okay.
I was very invested.
Actually, you know what? I'll give it a thumb. You know what you gave for the WWE Championship match? A thumb and a
Thumb and a half?
thumb and a half. I'll give it a thumb and a half actually, because
I got you.
the production value was great. It wasn't boring. I don't care what anybody says. This thing was not boring from beginning to end. I was hooked. I followed it, but I get what they mean by it was wacky and cartoony and too goofy, and I couldn't get into
that
it.
too, but did it really hurt anyone? I mean, I guess it hurt Shayna, but I mean,
Oh, it hurt Shayna big time, but we.
it hurt Shayna big time. Dana looked, I mean, Dana.
But she was never gonna
really
win.
utilized.
But she was never gonna win.
Yeah.
So
But she was dumb.
She did.
There was double murder. I guess that's one thing you take away. There was double murder.
But we've seen a guy get buried and no sell it. So I guess these guys are just going to show up on Raw tomorrow and pretend they didn't get thrown off a building, right? So we've seen it happen before. But anyway, I thought the wackiness worked. I enjoyed it. It was a fun main event to watch. And I thought this pay-per-view as a whole, like every year, Money in the Bank is one of my favorite B shows they do. It's almost like it's the only non-Big Four pay-per-view that I look forward to every year, personally. It's the only one out of the B shows. It's the only one I care about outside of WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. It's the one that I look forward to every year. And this was I would even say this was a great show. I was entertained from beginning to end. So the show itself for me, well, I would say I'd give it, it's very good. I would say like a thumb and a half, if not two thumbs up for the show. What say you, Gabe?
I give it a thumb and a half.
Yeah, thumb and a half sounds good.
There was some weird, stuff like R-Truth and Lashley, and matches could be better. But overall, it's the Money in the Bank matches that really count and matter, and it is different. And this is gonna go down in the history books as the first unorthodox Money in the Bank match that had taken place at the corporate headquarters of WWE.
Hey,
so
we just came off a Boneyard match main eventing WrestleMania Night 1. All right, so it's like, these are strange times, but I'm kind of been digging it, and I enjoyed the results of both Money in the Bank winners, and they were a pleasant surprise to me.
Yeah, so, I loved the result. Even if I didn't predict it correct, it's still genuine results. Actually, I was so happy for Asuka. I had the biggest smile. I haven't felt this type of genuine happiness for a babyface wrestler since I thought wrestling was still real. So it's
and anybody even though Shayna was there, Asuka was clearly the star of this match even before she won it. That's undisputed.
Oh yeah,
she was the one who had your attention the whole time. She was the one who was the smartest. She was booked the strongest throughout it, and she won. Perfect. So she was the star of the match, and she won. You could also say Otis might have been the star of the men's match with his oh yeahs and food fights and the whole structure. Yeah, and he ended up winning. So it's the people who were chosen to win, the man and woman who were chosen to win, were kind of seen as the stars or had the most charisma of their matches. So I can't argue with the winners. I'm glad I got both of them wrong, because when I predict a show and my predictions are wrong, that means the show wasn't really all that predictable. Now, was it? And I found that to be greatly a positive. So any last thoughts on the pay-per-view there, Gabe?
Like I said, this will definitely be in the history books. And I genuinely had a great time just watching it, and had genuine, happiness just watching Asuka and Otis to some extent winning those briefcases. So we'll just
see where it goes.
The sour spot is if they do Asuka and Otis wrong, it would just really undermine the Money in the Bank.
Yeah, it'll undermine it, but we won't know that until the future comes, right? As of right now, we can feel good about them winning, but we don't know what it's going to be like, right? Until, that happens.
That's the whole point of the Money in the Bank, is just the potential of what could come next with, them winning the briefcase.
Yeah, so I thought that the show was very good. They announced Backlash for next month.
I found that interesting.
Yeah, so they're doing probably another performance center show. It's probably what's going to be like that for the next couple months. I'm going to go out on record and maybe say that show probably not going to be as good as this one, but I maybe shouldn't say that, but I don't know. I think they've done really hard for the last two pay-per-views, and Backlash. Just I don't know. I don't know if it can follow this this trying to make the best of a bad situation thing. We'll see. I mean, card to be determined, right? Card subject to change.
Exactly.
So we'll see. But they do have a pay-per-view scheduled for next month in June, and it's going to be Backlash. So anything you want to get out before we start doing the plugs, or can we go right on into the pluggerunos for this here podcast?
We can just go straight into the plugs.
Yeah, so, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the podcast again where we do the cheapest of plugs. So, Gabe, you know your role. You know what you want to say. So, take your time to plug what you want, my man.
I just want to say, if you want to keep updates on my DMV Wrestling podcast, How Goes It with Gabe Nozid, I just interviewed Isaiah Frazier, who had a chance to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship against Nick Aldis at one point. Next up is going to be another fellow wrestler in the DMV Grapple region. For more updates, just subscribe to Nozid Wrestling on YouTube, or if you want my miscellaneous content, I'm also just Nozid on YouTube. If you just want to follow my Twitter, Instagram, just for the hell of it, it's at Gabe Nozid for both Instagram and Twitter. And that is all I got to plug in, Brayster, because who knows it?
Gabe knows it. That's such an award-winning wrestling catchphrase in the making. Oh, you know, gosh, I need to get myself a rock style promo closing line. Maybe I'll come up with one day. We'll see. I guess I kind of do have one at the end of the podcast. Well, I mean,
oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we will get to that. But anyway, so if you've listened to this podcast via Anchor and any of the Anchor related platforms, I should say, that our podcast is available on, I'm going to take a look at all of them right now. There is quite a few. So Anchor itself, of course, distributes our podcast to a multitude of platforms across the web. So a good handful. So if you listen to this on Anchor itself or its related platforms, that being Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, perhaps the most important one of all, and Copy RSS, then I hope you gave it a little download and you share it, and maybe send it to any of your other wrestling friends that would enjoy hearing this review. If you heard it on the YouTube video form and you enjoyed what you heard between myself and Mr. Gabe tonight, please give the channel a subscribe, because we, of course, upload this podcast not only to Anchor and its related platforms, but we also do a video version that is uploaded to my YouTube channel, as you see here, youtube.com/Brayster, whenever there's important news to discuss for the week, pay-per-views we want to predict and review, and all the like that comes with being a wrestling fan. Also, if you happen to like gaming content, I do weekly Nintendo commentary videos talking in the Smash speculation sphere as we build towards the future Mystery Arms Fighter and everything going around, including will there or won't there be a Nintendo Direct? I'm thinking there won't be, but we follow. If you enjoy that type of news, I do it every week, and subscribe to the channel if you would like to hear that, as well as the Apron Bumps podcast itself. That is all I have to say for tonight. I hope you enjoyed listening to this review, and me and Gabe are going to Spanish fly on out of here. Good night, folks.